Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com with this week's episode of the Market Monday. So the entire spoiler of War of the Spark is out, which means that we have a good idea of the overall value of this set. Now keep in mind that all of the cards right now are going to be inflated, as there will be a race to acquire the singles for all the people that want the cards right now, and inevitably that will lead to a lot of box being opened, and eventually the set will flatline out between, I would say, 2 and 3 months after the release of the set. So let's look at War of the Spark. We have a pre-release coming up in this weekend and the release the following weekend. And we have a few announcements with War of the Spark this week. One was the Mythic Edition, which showcased Jace the Mind Sculptor and Ugin, with 12,000 copies of this Mythic box that will be going on sale on the MTG eBay page. And now today we also had the announcement of the War of the Spark Japanese alternate art Planeswalkers. So what is this? Basically, this is a Japanese language 50-50, so 50% of these will be this artist, this Japanese artist, kind of anime look to these Planeswalkers, and 50% will be the normal edition of the Planeswalkers. And these will be available in English, and they will be distributed in the United States. So let me give a little bit of history on foreign languages, why they used to be so expensive, and if you actually look at the prices, especially foil Japanese, foil Chinese, foil Russian, Origins, pre-Battle for Zendikar, they were very, very expensive, but then that shifted. And the reasoning why is these were, to be able to acquire one of these, it used to be you'd have to buy a box or you'd have to get cards sent in or from someone that had opened these in that demographic. Now, after about Origins, there was such a demand for the foreign language boxes that Wizards decided that they would release some supply into the United States market, and it ended up being quite a bit where the market actually couldn't, the demand couldn't actually outstretch the supply of these. And you can still find foreign language boxes all the way back from Oranges. I think I can still get them from distributors for like $50. Nobody wants them. The foil prices are very, very low of these cards, sometimes even lower than their English counterparts. And it just led to one of those things where the demand was only there, or the actual cost of this was only there because the demand was higher than the supply of these hard to get cards in foreign languages. But when they started releasing these at local game stores, at least to the distributors to sell to local game stores, I think I remember when we used to have the Wizards Direct, you could directly buy a case or two on release of like Russian and Chinese and Japanese, no problem. I think it was about 3 cases worth of these if you did have the market in your own area. And I remember the first time they did this, they did sell quite well, and then each passing set they just sold worse and worse and worse, to the point that now, like I said, you can still get them from distributors for about $50 a booster box. So anyway, we have this coming this time though with the alternative art in this little anime style, and so far the reception has been absolutely huge. I have both locals and patrons that want many cases of these if they can get their hands on them, because they are filthy weebs and like this anime art. Well, that's a complaint for another day. If you're a fan of, or if you're part of my Discord, you know that I just rag on weebs. Weebs get out. But anyway, if you're into weebs, this is a weeb set for you, released in the United States. So I'll be talking to my distributors to see exactly what the supply of this is. I'm gonna assume it's quite high. All 3 of the distributors have them on pre-order, but it's one of those things they don't have the numbers you can get right now. So I assume it's something you have to call and tell them how much you want to purchase, and they'll try to fulfill that demand. Traditionally, it's usually first come, first serve with these type of things. And so I'll give a call and I'll let people know in the coming days of just the overall supply of this. So where does that leave with the War of the Spark? It's kind of interesting because I don't know if this is going to actually affect the English cards, if people are going to divert their money towards these purchases. And also if people are diverting their money towards the Mythic Edition booster boxes, that's going to be less money that would be used to purchase overall regular booster boxes, which means less supply because there's less packs per money spent on those. But maybe the market can adjust. Maybe the market can actually fulfill as we've seen with like the Guilds of Ravnica and Ravnica Allegiance. So let's just talk about that, the overall health of the economy. The past few videos I've talked about just a robust Magic the Gathering scene. I called it a bull market. We saw single prices just go through the roof with both Commander and Modern and even Standard cards in the past few months. And I think it has a lot to do with multiple factors. First, I do think that MTG Arena has been leading to paper growth. I think that Magic overall has been definitely on a runaway bull market, just a huge influx of new players. We saw that with the trailer being so successful from War of the Sparks. We saw that with the Arena View, or the Mythic Championship, as well as the it's called Mythic Championship, right? Well, it had the highest view counts of all time on Twitch for any Magic the Gathering stream. And overall, that just shows me, without a doubt, the evidence is there for Magic growing. However, I also think this had to do with some of the other factors. Usually tax season is in January. People submit their taxes, they get their returns a few months later, and the product then, or the money that people get on their tax returns, goes to that sort of product. Well, this time tax season kind of fell in a dud area of Magic the Gathering. We always have, at the end of winter, early spring, this time period where there's not a lot of product that is released. So between Ravnica Allegiance and War of the Spark, there really wasn't anything released. We see the summer will start to release a lot of products, and the early winter and early start of the year usually has quite a few of products around Christmas season as well. So this time, I think with the tax returns coming later because of the U.S. federal government shutdown, which did affect the IRS, I think that it came for the perfect time for singles to just be the target of choice. So I think that's one of the reasons too we saw a healthier than normal tax return season type singles market. And I think that's going to cool off a little bit. And the reason with that is I do think that a lot of the money is that would go towards singles is going to be diverted towards these mythic booster boxes from War of the Spark, arguably the best mythic edition so far, as well as then we also have this Japanese one, and we're not too far off with the usual summer sets that are going to be released. First, Modern Horizons. There is huge demand for that set. We know it's going to change Modern. We know that it's going to be a premium set or a premium price that is going to cost more than double, well, about double regular booster boxes. And we also have the things like Commander sets coming out. Maybe an anthology set will come out. They usually do announce these type of sets with only a few months out, and then they do release them. And I think that will divert inevitably quite a bit of money that would be spent towards singles in this current market. So anyway, that is War of the Spark. So currently, let's just talk about War of the Spark and where it currently is at. So we have War of the Spark at around the $360 set value. This is different from a box EV because you have to factor in things like the overall cost per mythic versus cost per rare, or even cost for uncommon. If a set has a lot of uncommons that actually are above the $2 mark, that is going to add to a lot more set EV than a mythic is. And the same thing with rare. If there's a lot of rares that have these high price tags, it's going to do a lot more for the set EV than a couple high expensive mythics. A good set to compare this to is something like Domineering that has a $50 mythic, to a set like Ravnica Allegiance that only has a mythic that is worth, we have $125 or one is $25, and then they start to fall off from there. We've even seen sets with mythics that didn't even go over $15 have a overall box EV much higher than Domineering that has that $50 mythic in it. So anyway, we have a pretty good spread right now for War of the Spark. If we actually compare other ones that come out, it really reminds me of Ravnica Allegiance. The mythics around that point were about the same. There wasn't really a huge chase mythic. There was just many of them. And when the set was finally spoiled, we had about a set EV, or a set value, of about 370, which you can see that's about similar right now that we have going for War of the Spark. So if I remember correctly, the box EV around that time period was between the 110s and 120s. So that's a pretty positive box EV out the gate for War of the Spark. I personally don't think it can hold, but I'm a little more positive than I was a few months ago about investing in War of the Spark or even buying booster boxes of War of the Spark, because I really thought that this set is going to be opened up more than anything. But with those other factors that I mentioned beforehand, with the Mythic Edition, which, yes, that does add product into the supply, but it is product at a premium, and people are really buying those for the Jace the Mind Sculptors and the Ugins. And now we have another foreign language version, which shouldn't affect the prices too much of the normal versions, the English versions, I would assume. But then that's money that's being diverted towards that particular product. And I don't know if this set will have the time now to really get the mass box opening that some of these other sets do, like we did with Ravnica Allegiance, before the Modern Horizons starts to divert the sales towards that product. So I don't know. I'm not as doom and gloom as I was with this set before. The whole reason, though, don't get me wrong, this set is not bad. In fact, it's the exact opposite. Usually when sets are good, when they're extremely good and they have high impact cards, that actually leads to the set not having a lot of money in them. So if you look at like Kaladesh, for example, or even look at things like, if you go back to Khans of Tarkir with the fetch lands, the fetch lands that people wanted so badly gobbled up the entire value of the set, where it made cards that saw four of copies, 4 of rares in that particular standard season. It even had a little bit of implication in modern, down to $1 a rare, because that's how much that set was open to get those fetch lands. Now, I thought we'd see the exact same thing happen with War of the Spark. However, again, I don't know if that's going to be the case. I do think that a lot of these cards, especially in this area with some of these mythics that I definitely do think we're going to see play in standard around the $5 mark, is cheap for these type of cards at the pre-order price, which shows me that there is a lot of people anticipating they're going to open a ton of these boxes. So we have like Gaudy, or some of these gods like Gaudy Turn of the Oketra. If this came out from another set, I think it'd be worth more than about $7 for a mythic, as this has a lot of casual pill, as well as I think this is a heavy hitter in, or at least it's up there. I think that the power levels right there with Lyra. They hold the exact same slot, but this one is a pretty potent card in a mid-range either white-red deck or Celestia deck for sure. However, we're not going to talk about each individual power rating of the card. I just wanted to focus that this set feels like these cards, if they were in other sets, should be pre-ordering at a higher price. Now, does that give the ability to, make a play on God Eternal Oketra? I don't think so. I think this set is going to be more on the lines of Khans of Tarkir or Kaladesh, that everything is just going to go down because so much of this product is going to be purchased. So currently we have Nicol Bolas, the Dragon God, that is actually pre-selling at the highest. I actually think this is a mistake to invest in, because the deck that this goes into is pretty much, this can go into Grixis decks, and it's going to be hard to splash it in other things because the triple black is very, very rough, even in today's format. So it's very similar to, like, we actually did see Niv Mizzet from Guilds of Ravnica go into a lot of decks. So maybe Nicol Bolas is easier splashed in. Maybe we see like a Sultai Splash Red version with this. I don't know. It seems pretty rough to go into 4 colors. It does seem like it might just be the Grixis decks. The Grixis decks are there. We also have Liliana Dreadhorde General too, that I think is a little bit overpriced, because I don't see this Planeswalker as a 4 of in any standard deck. It's going to have a lot of EDH appeal. I get it, as it's one of the more powerful cards ever printed for EDH. But people are talking definitely about standard, where this is going to see a lot of play. But again, I don't see this being played in 4 ofs, and these two are quite awkward. So if these are the 2 cards that are pre-ordering the highest, these are definitely ones that I would not invest in, and I would try to find a card down here that could be a sleeper. Now, in this video, I'm not going to look too much into the sleepers. You definitely have to scour the deck lists of everything that's current in standard and see which ones fit well. The ones that are the most appealing are cards like the Elder Spell, that are these low mana cost cards that definitely will see some play somewhere. So the Elder Spell, of course, destroying a number of target planeswalkers, and then you can put 2 loyalty on a planeswalker you controlled. In a lot of decks, I think this is very, very good. It's going to get Kaya up to ulting very quickly, or even at that point, any of the other planeswalkers you throw in, like an Orzhov deck or a Esper deck. And these type of spells, I think, have the ability to go up slightly. But even $4 for a rare that is situational, that can't kill creatures, that's a bit of a stretch. So basically, I'm kind of avoiding the singles prices for this. I think most of the cards are going to go down. I can't see a sleeper at the moment. Each set, there always is one. So I'm interested in the comments in the comment section below about what card you think is going to be the sleeper. We had cards that were selling for quite big when they're spoiled at first, like the Dreadhorde Invasion, really crash in price, which I do think is reasonable. We have a lot of talk on the pro scene about how good Dreadhorde Butcher is, as well as the wannabe Snapcaster Mage. But overall, there's just nothing that really, really stands out for me that this is the mythic that is just completely underrated at the moment, that is going to have that double or triple up. So anyway, let's go ahead and just look again at where Ravnica Allegiance settled off. So if we're looking at the current prices of the TCG Player market price for a booster box of the Ravnica Allegiance, you're going to be looking about $76.29. It's actually recouping a little bit. Remember, on TCU Mid/Market, this was about $110 to $120 booster box at the time of release. Went all the way down to 71 at the market price, which is still pretty strong and has now recovered a little bit. Guilds of Ravnica, I don't ever think got up to the price that Ravnica Allegiance did, and has gone all the way down to 70, and it looks like it's really flat. It hasn't even stopped going down from there. So typically these spring summer sets have the ability to hold their value longer unless they are a popular set. Speaking of which, we have Dominaria. That is all the way down to $50. A lot of these cards have been included in like challenger decks, though, of course, that are going to affect the price. But you can see that usually specifically why we look at Dominaria is it was one of those sets that was purchased like crazy. I believe it's the second most attended pre-release, the next to Guilds of Ravnica, and it's the first set in a long time to sell out where it is considered out of stock. It's still quite, the waters are kind of muddled if there will be another reprinting of Dominaria because it's still eligible for a reprint. However, right now, the Dominaria is out of stock. It's very, very hard to find distributors, and you can see that the price, the EV does not reflect what you'd think from a set that is that highly in demand. What this means is that Dominaria was so popular despite the overall price of the cards, including them, that people continued to purchase it regardless of the value within. And I'm thinking that War of the Spark is going to be very similar to Dominaria. The people are going to ignore the fact that it doesn't have great EV, and these prices are going to get crushed week 1, week 2, and then within a month not be worth that EV of probably half in value from that 110 to 55, and people are going to continue to buy that because Planeswalkers. And so anyway, I caution everyone again, not as doom and gloom as I was last week, but I still think that there is room for this set to go down quite substantially. And I'd be looking at these top 2 ones specifically for the greatest loss in price. Again, if these do see decks week 1, maybe I'll change my tone, but I don't think it's something that's going to be settled. I haven't seen a lot of cards out of this set that are going to affect the meta too much. When you actually start pairing these cards, there are some that want to be a few here and there. These finales look quite interesting. Maybe there's something that we can look at. But I think that when people start playing decks like Ilharg the Razebore, they're going to be too tough to actually make them work. I mean, I've lost so many shirts on betting on these cards that require you to then attack the next turn. I get giving this haste. There are a lot of cards that can do that, can make this card goes bonkers. But in standard, that might just be something that's too hard to accomplish. So same thing with Teferi Time Raveler. This is another card that has a lot of legacy play. People think it's going to affect Modern, but is it going to affect Modern more than like Assassin's Trophy? We saw exactly what happened to Assassin's Trophy, going from the $20, I think it was actually $30 marks at this point, even higher, maybe it was $40 at the time of the pre-sale, and is down, I believe, under $10 now at this point. So anyway, that's kind of the overall gist of the market that's going on. Not a lot has changed in the last couple weeks. I'll definitely be doing my top 10 list of cards that I want to brew around for War of the Spark, and we'll look at some other cards specifically on the Rogue Market channel. But this one's kind of short and sweet for Market Monday, not a lot to talk about. Wow, it's been a long time since we got a video under the 20-minute mark. But I'll give you some picks this week. We have a Rogue Roundup coming out probably tomorrow, as well as some other juicy stuff market related. If you did enter the Rogue Market Fantasy Finance portfolio, we are still trying to work out the kinks and bugs. You can go watch my video on that a few months ago from the Rogue Market, where you could win my YouTube ad revenue, which ended up being a whopping Battle Bond booster box by entering a fantasy portfolio contest. And we have all the entries. The problem is using the same site that you export a CSV file does not allow me to actually input that exact same CSV file back in and read the cards. So we're working out the kinks. We're trying to see what we're doing wrong. As soon as we got that fixed, we're going to start looking over those portfolios. And again, June 1st, the winner with the highest portfolio, highest money worth of the portfolio will be crowned the winner and win my Battle Bond booster box. So anyway, speaking of Battle Bond, that was a pretty good set. If you did invest in Battle Bond, it looks like the EV of Battle Bond is now all the way up to $130 market price, which is just crazy for a set that is not that old. It's like a year old, isn't it? Anyway, not much more to talk about. Keep this one short and sweet. We'll have some more meet on the Rogue Market next week when we start to look at decks that these cards go in. And maybe we can do another Arclight Phoenix like we did a few sets ago. Find that gem, that diamond in the rough to invest in the sleepers. Anyway, this is Kevin with Rogue Deck Builder. Thanks for watching.